introduce myself. My name is Trickster.
What was that film you were watching?
Death, death, death.
Death, death, death.
Part 2.
Oh, Lord.
Michael's seen it,
Go for it, man.
done it, played it,
Look, I've played them all.
and just when he thought he'd die of boredom,
BrainScan, the ultimate experience in interactive terror.
Never leave home without it.
You're in the game, man. You're in control.
You must think like a killer. Cover up any clues. Leave no witnesses, no evidence.
a challenge he can't resist.
It was so real. It was sick.
See, I told you, man. I told you it would blow your mind.
A game he can't escape.
There was a grisly murder in the quiet suburban town of Mountview today.
So you did it.
What was on that disc?
It's not a game anymore.
Hamilton and Hayden.
It's real.
It wasn't supposed to be real.
Real, unreal, what's the difference?
I didn't kill the man. I didn't even know him.
You're in this now. You won't survive on your own. You started this and now you're afraid to finish it just like you're afraid of everything else.
I won't kill her. Shoot her.
Wait. The witness has to die.
Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and introducing T.Ryder Smith as the Trickster. BrainScan.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
What's up, guys? Today's addition to the Cult Vault is 1994's BrainScan, starring Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and T.Ryder Smith as the Trickster over here, which I could only describe as a love child of Freddy Krueger and Drop Dead Fred with a splash of punk rock. If you know, you know, but that's actually a pretty good explanation of what this guy is over here. And what we have is a super 90s, early 90s horror film, and all the ingredients are there from the early 90s. You got soundtrack with White Zombie and Primus, you have Edward Furlong in heavy flannel, and you have really bad CGI. But it's endearing. It adds to the film's charm. It doesn't detract from it. It actually kind of looks like what video games looked like in those days. Because I'm old. I know, trust me. But basically, the synopsis is you got two buddies, typical high school outcasts. They run a horror club. They play horror movies. And they don't get invited to the cool parties. But Edward Furlong does, because his neighbor is a hot chick who likes him and is always inviting him. But he's too much of a hermit crab. And he's just in his amazing monster kid's room, just playing video games and horror movies. His buddy comes across a sort of an underground ad in a magazine about this strange game going around called BrainScan, where it's a game that claims it's sort of like a what happens is this game hypnotizes you and it custom tailors a horror experience to you. The idea is very cool, and it's ahead of its time if you ask me, because it's kind of like a modern day horror survivor game in VR, but the twist is a little Hitchcockian because you don't know if he's killing for real or it's in game. It's something that he learns as he's progressing. When he comes out of the game, he starts finding body parts in a freezer and tools of murder that he's had around the house, and he starts to freak out. He starts to question reality. He doesn't know what's real, what's not. And that's the type of vibe that this film has. It's sort of a thriller, horror, survival movie, but very 90s, very 90s CGI. Like I said before, I can't say it enough, because when you watch it, you're gonna see it and you're gonna be like, oh my god. But like I said, it fits the early 90s video games, so it's fine. It works. It's aged badly in a good way. Trust me on this. The game comes in 4 chapters, 4 different discs. Every disc is a different progression of your murderous rampage, and the Trickster is sort of your host. He kind of guides you through it, and he kind of eggs you on to finish the job. He eggs you on to kill everybody off, all the witnesses, etc., etc. So overall, it is a very dark, and humorous film that I highly recommend. I saw this movie when I was in high school, maybe 20 years ago, and I've never seen it again. So as a rewatch, I was thinking I was going to be cringing and it was going to be really bad, and I was actually happily surprised that I very much enjoyed it as much as I did back in the day. Like I said, I feel like it's a idea that's ahead of its time, and you can actually probably do a film like this nowadays with better CGI. But I think it'll lose the charm a little bit. I think it fits better in that early 90s period. It's like that Edward Furlong and Pet Sematary vibe. It's hard to explain, but it's Edward Furlong in like flannel, but it works. The director, John Flynn, actually is the guy who directed Locked Up with Sylvester Stallone, and he did Out for Justice with Steven Seagal. So he was actually a successful guy, and I believe he's still working to this day, but I don't think he's ever gone back to horror or sci-fi horror. And it's a shame. I wish he would do something else, because actually I think this is a film in a bit of a category on its own. There's not many films that are in this level of like sci-fi, dark horror. It kind of reminds me of another film called Existence. Maybe that's another review if you have not seen that. But it's in the same vibe. It's at the moment only available on Amazon Prime and YouTube in a pretty shitty quality. And obviously you can find it on Blu-ray and stuff. But BrainScan, 1994, it's an hour and 36 minutes. Watch it. I highly recommend it. It's very fun. And the Trickster character, I feel like, is sort of an underrated horror character that they could have, if only it would have done better, I could have seen that they would have had more sequels lined up for it, because he's a very cool character that kind of went to waste because not that many people saw this film. But that's why I'm here trying to push it. Go see BrainScan. What are you doing here? Go see BrainScan.